Training camp day 0 is officially upon us. We do have a couple of injury updates that we want to get to. One that I think we're going to, everybody be calm. It's going to be fine per what we're hearing. And another one, I think my comments yesterday stand pat. Might be time to panic a little bit. All that more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel or just haven't had a chance to do so, make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. This is the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talk. So make sure that you stay in tune with us, man. So a little bit of breaking news here as we get things started. This news came down the pipeline maybe, I don't know, probably about 10-15 minutes ago. Montez Sweat is going to be placed on football NFI. Now, that is a non-football injury. Probably came into the building and was dealing with something, and the Bears said, you know, we're going to slow play this. Nothing, per what we have heard, nothing massive to be concerned about on the Montez Sweat side. This is more a precautionary thing than anything, and I think that that's good to hear, especially with how the Bears have started off pretty banged up here. The other one, by the way, the team did say they expect him to return in a few days here. The other one was safety Elijah Hicks, who reported some shin discomfort when he got to camp. Upon arriving on the vet day, he's being placed on the PUP list. He's on the mend anyway, but he is walking around, and the Bears don't see this injury as anything major as well. So to me, two things that you don't have to worry about for the long term. I think that, you know, those are kind of the things that you look at and you say, that's what you expect on a veteran day one, right? Guys show up, maybe something tweaked, maybe there was something in practice that didn't sit right or something that they were rehabbing that didn't sit right. Nothing major. Good to hear that on both of those guys. The other things, though, you know, we did get some pretty big injury updates here today. And I say pretty big because even though they were on some of the players that we knew already, you get to hear the tone. The tone of what coaches and how GMs feel when people are in the building and when you get to actually sit there and have a conversation with them, right? And the tone on some of the names that have been on the PUP list and put out there is very different. Now, like I said yesterday, right, with the TJ Edwards one, kind of what we expected as far as the tone from Ryan Poles, right? Said, listen, he's still on track. There's some things that he's hoping to work through. Had a little bit of a setback with the right calf injury, but we still feel very good about that. And then you start to go through with Ozzie Trapillo, Shamar Turner, right? You're kind of hearing a better tone around both of those guys. With Ozzie Trapillo, he said he's right on track, and he's not going to put a timeline on him. Same thing with Shamar Turner. He's not putting a timeline on either of those guys. And so, you know, kind of what we expected to hear around both of those names. I've kind of put myself in the mindset Ozzie is not going to play this season, right? And that's kind of just where you're at. But, you know, with TJ hearing that he had a right calf and there's no concern there, Ozzie's doing great and looks good. Shamar working back to health. Noah is kind of on the right track there. All of those things from Ryan Poles. Exactly what we expected to hear. Nothing insane, nothing major, nothing wild. And then you get to the name that I was told yesterday that I was overreacting to what we were hearing around the player. I was overreacting to how we were talking about Kyler Gordon. Well, Pat, that's not how they meant it. That's not what they said. More than likely, they're just trying to motivate him to get back onto the field. And that's not how it sounded to me today. If you got a chance to listen to that press conference today, it truly sounds like Kyler Gordon, it's you know what, or get off the pot. And whether that means, I don't think that, you know, it means that he's going to be off of the team. I don't think that it means he's not going to be a part of, you know, the upcoming season. But I do think that there's a real conversation that you have to have around Kyler Gordon not being on the ends with this coaching staff. Ryan Poles said himself today he's going to have to work to build that trust back with this coaching staff. And when Ben Johnson got up there to speak about Kyler Gordon as well, the tone was very much get back on the field. I think it was Pat Finley asked him, he's like, what's your message to Kyler? Get healthy. And I love how Ryan put it. And this is the reality of the NFL. Again, your favorite Chicago Bear may not always be your favorite Chicago Bear. This is the reality of the NFL. He said, we're hoping, we're working with him. He's been here the entire offseason. But we're going to work with the guys that we have in the facility ready to go. And we're going to hope that we can get him back in there. That doesn't sound like a guy who is close to coming back. That doesn't sound like a player who you feel confident is going to be back in the building anytime soon. And so I again, when you talk about, and even the tone that they had around Montez, like they are not shying away from where these players are standing. With Tez, he's like, he's fine. I mean, it'll be a couple of days and he should be back out there, but we have to designate him with this already. With Shamar, with Ozzie, right? With TJ, you can hear that tone. Listen to what they are saying. Don't sit there and go, oh, well, we can just bury our head in the sand and that's going to be fine. Listen to what they are saying. They are telling you right now where Kyler Gordon is. And for a lot of you that have Tyreek Stevenson in one place, I would say Kyler Gordon is not very far from him. Chicago Bears are starting this camp defensively, definitely banged up. You now up to 8 players who are going to be on that injured list early on here. And hopefully this is something that it gets very quickly rectified. Listen, if a week into camp, Kyler Gordon is back and he's back on the field, then none of us care. But the fact is, I love how Ryan Poles said it. He has to go out there and rebuild that trust with the coaches that are in the building. That is the statement that tells me exactly where they have Kyler right now. And it is not a different place from Tyreek Stevenson, who is on the field and fighting his way to actually be out there and stay out there. Now, it's not to say that I think that Kyler Gordon is not looking to, not working hard. I think you also have to give credit. Ryan Poles said today as well that Kyler Gordon has been here the entire offseason. He's been working. He's been getting himself back right. And remember, the entire offseason has not been Kyler Gordon dealing with the injury. Most of the offseason has been Kyler Gordon working to get himself better. The injury came, right before minicamp there. So you're talking about a guy who pretty much stayed here, didn't go back out west this offseason, maybe went out there for a little bit of time, spent that time focusing on getting better. Like, I'm willing to give him credit for all of that, but we've said it till we can say it till we're blue in the face. It's just the reality of the sport. The best ability is availability, and right now Kyler Gordon is just not proving to be a player who is available on a consistent basis. Let me know how you guys feel down in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. What are your thoughts on Kyler Gordon? Let's chop it up in the chat right now. Because to me, my takeaway from today, out of everything that we heard, and there's a lot of stuff that we heard to be excited about as Bears fans. You should be excited today. Training camp day 0. We're back, baby. They're back on the field practicing tomorrow. That's what I want to see. Very early practice, by the way. I'm going to tell you what. Those car videos that I always do on my way into camp, that's going to be tough. Hallis Hall opening up at 6:45. Ooh. Coaches speaking at 7. Ooh. 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 Practice at 8. Oh, but then I'll be fine. Right after that, we'll be out of there. Probably be two-hour practice. Yeah, I mean, I'm done by 10. I'm recording videos early in the day. I'm chopping it up with y'all in the middle of the day. We'll make it all work. But what are your thoughts on Kyler Gordon and the tone that it seemed like the coaching staff and the team set for him today? Did you hear Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson's comments and feel like Kyler Gordon is, it truly is just get yourself back healthy and everything's going to be kumbaya? Or did you feel like Kyler Gordon might be one of those players that we talk about who was on the outside looking in on Ben Johnson's coaching staff, or for Ben Johnson's coaching staff? Douglas Key said, am I wrong to say that Kyler can be cut or traded sooner than we think? No, I've said this a million times. Your favorite Chicago Bear may not always be your favorite Chicago Bear. Prepare yourselves for that. Because the conversation that the coaching staff is having around a player like Kyler, the conversation that the coaching staff is having around this team as a whole, it's not just Kyler, but around this team as a whole. Hey, we're willing to give you as much leeway as we can, but if you're not there, we are going to pick up the drill, move it past your dead body, and start the drill again. Welcome to the NFL. Welcome to big boy football. If you're a Bears fan that's used to your favorite players getting chance after chance after chance after chance, that's dead. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that. To me right now, that's a massive conversation about a ton of names on the defensive side of the football, if there is a cheaper and better option. Now, in the Kyler Gordon situation, there may not be a cheaper or better option right now, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and say whoever comes in after Kyler Gordon is going to be better than him. Realistically, when Kyler is healthy, I don't think that there are 2 or 3 better slot corners in football than him. I think that he is that talented of a player. But if you were to sit there and tell me, Kyler Gordon, there's no way that you can move off of him. You have to figure it out with him because you paid him already. Shoo, Ben didn't pay him. In fact, listen, a player like Malik Muhammad, who I think is here more in the Tyreek Stevenson situation than not, a player like Malik Muhammad, though, is somebody who played just about every position that you could as far as DB goes in college. That could be somebody who, instead of Tyreek's job he's taking, maybe you're talking about him slotting in for Kyler, somebody who they drafted already that Ben is on his side with. That's what it comes down to. And so as good as I think Kyler is, as good as I think Kyler Gordon is on the field when he's out there consistently. I mean, hey, he came back from injury and we instantly saw the impact. The problem is he got hurt again. If that's who you are in this league, Ben Johnson's going to move on from you in a heartbeat. And don't be surprised if we see that with Kyler Gordon. Andy says Kyler will be back and this will all be a thing of the past, but I also thought Kwani B would still be here. That's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. And by the way, Jaquan Brisker, every step of the way that was set out, he openly said, I want to be a Bear. And you know what the Bears said? We appreciate you. Enjoy the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is the coaching staff we have. They will pick up the drill and move it past you. And that's okay. That is how you consistently build winners. It is not being best friends to players out there. It is not. The Philadelphia Eagles are willing to move on from A.J. Brown. You know what I mean? How many times do we have to see this to go, yeah, he's talented, but they've moved past him. And they don't like what happens when he's in there. I thought the tone was set today for Kyler Gordon publicly. This is not conversations behind closed doors. He's telling us. I'm sitting 5 feet from him, looking at Ben's eyes. He's going, get healthy. Publicly. The conversation is, we don't trust you. Right now, this coaching staff doesn't believe that you are going to be healthy. And you have to prove to everybody that you can be healthy and make an impact on the field. By the way, you also have to do that in a system with Dennis Allen that you have played 3 games in. That was the tone set today on day 0 of camp. And now we move on from here. That's day 0. I love it. I'm so excited. If you're excited that Bears football is back, bro, drop a bear down in the chat, man. Drop a bear down in the comments. Hit that like button if you have not done so, and make sure that you stay tapped in. We are going to be live, pretty much every single day over the next couple of months. So appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Now, on to the offensive side of things with this team. There was a lot of praise around Caleb Williams today, and rightfully so, about the growth that they believe that he can show. Ben Johnson, when talking about Caleb, he talked about, how getting to that next step of being great is making the simple reads, making the simple passes. And how he can see where Caleb can get to that next step. He talked about how camp is going to be more fiery, and it's going to be, it's going to be very similar to a lot of the things that we saw last season because of the new bodies that we have in it. But at the same time, because of the continuity, now you can put so many different things on their plate. A plate that I might add probably is going to be pretty full this upcoming season. You feel good about where this offense is at to start things off. And tomorrow we're going to get to see at least a glimpse of what it looks like. Listen, there's not going to be pads on for a while here. You do have, I would assume pads probably won't start until next week. But remember, we're preseason games are, where are we at? We're at 7/28. Preseason games are 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away. Yeah, boom, boom. Hey, you're just under 3 weeks away for preseason, dog. So you're going to start to see what this offense looks like pretty quickly. And he talked about how it's going to be a different process when guys know the system coming back, which I think a lot of us expected. And I'll tell you what told me that was the mornings now, the practices being in the mornings now mean that you're more willing to say, we don't need to learn this early in the day and then go out there and do it. You guys know what this is. You know what's to be expected of you. And so in the second half of the day, you're going to be able to get out there and go to work, right? Like you'll be able to get the classroom stuff after all of this, but let's practice first because we know what's expected of us this upcoming season. I think that continuity can't be spoken about enough for this Bears team. And I know, right, that's something that if somebody who's a fan of another team comes in here and what's the right way to say it, right? If somebody who was a fan of another team that has been more consistently competent over the last few years were to hear me say that, you would probably go, well, that's pretty obvious. But for the Bears, that continuity is not something that we're used to. For the Bears, that continuity is not something that we expect to see. And seeing how the players are reacting to it, seeing how Caleb is talking about, it felt like that Ben and him were speaking a different language, and now it feels like they're understanding the same language, right? It just truly feels like you have something special that you can build here based off of everything that you were able to do last season. And now it just comes down to, where do we think everybody's going to slot in? Ryan Poles today, he's talking about Luther Burden. And this seems to be the thing, again, talking about the tone of day one, because you can't take any definites from anything, but the tone of day one. When Ryan Poles was asked about Luther Burden, and he said, basically, you hope that everybody takes that next step, but you're so excited for what Luther can be in this upcoming season because you can just see the talent dripping off of him. Like, that's the part for me that it's almost like Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, although Caleb Williams, pretty much said he's like he can make anybody miss. Ryan Poles. Whenever you hear somebody talk about Luther Burden, it's almost like they have to calm themselves down about Luther Burden. Right? It's almost like they're like, well, I don't want to do too much. I don't want to say too much. So let me relax when it comes to Luther, right? Let me try and put this fire out a little bit because it feels like I might turn it into a blaze. I can't wait to see what that young man's going to be able to do on the field in the second year of being in this Ben Johnson offense. I think that there is so much that this offense is going to be capable of. I think that there is so much to me that we're going to see. And, the number one thing that you saw was an excited Ben Johnson today, a guy who's ready to get back to work, who felt like, listen, he looked like he was fiending up there a little bit for some football, didn't he? And we all been there. We all understand that feeling, but he looked like he was fiending a little bit from some football. But to me, when he talked about Luther Burden today, he said he wants to help the team win. He wants to be the absolute best receiver he can possibly be, and you can feel that fire inside him. He even chuckled when he talked about how much Luther loved football and how he was calling quarterbacks every day to try and throw him the football so he could see what it looks like coming from a legitimate NFL caliber quarterback. Like, that's the kind of player that you talk about, especially early on in their career, and you say at the end of a season, it was always obvious that he was our number one. We just had to see it play out. Like the video if you agree. He was always our number one. We just had to see how the season played out. That's what it feels like they're kind of setting things up for, which is going to be interesting for Rome this season and how he adapts to that. But also, it doesn't mean that you can't have a 1 and 1A. But I really want to see who breaks out as one. Now, y'all know how I feel. I think Colston Loveland, no matter the scenario, no matter the situation, no matter the conversation, I think he's your number one receiver as you head into this season, and we'll kind of see how Ben utilizes him this upcoming year. But when you talk about players that you just have so much excitement around, I think Luther Burden is number 2 for Bears fans right now, right behind Caleb Williams, who probably will always be number 1 in our hearts. Willie Lampkin in the comments, he said, Luther didn't even know where the hell to line up in the first half of last season. He's going to be a monster. Bears are going to light up the scoreboard, offense and defense, 40-41 shootout games. Well, that means the defense ain't lighting up the scoreboard too much there, IG. That means the defense, well, I guess that does mean that there maybe there's some pick sixes in your analogy in that. BLP says, can Rome stay healthy? That's really the big question, right? That's what it comes down to, talking about Rome with that foot injury. He says he's healthy. He says he's used to his new normal. What is that new normal going to look like? That's really what it comes down to with Rome Odunze. One final thing that I wanted to take away from today, and then I got to get up out of here because I still got a bunch of other Bears duties to do today. So appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. If you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe to the Chicago Bears podcast. We're going to have a ton of content coming out for you over there. Also, if you are not already subbed up or are following me over on Twitch, we are going to be doing NFL live calls all season long over on Twitch this upcoming season. We are trying to get to a point where Twitch is paying all the bills, and we can't do that without you guys' help. So make sure that you guys go over to @PatTheDesignerTV, sub up to the Twitch channel. We are going to have live football all the time, man, over there, and we're going to be starting early on in preseason. So there's going to be some ugly live call games that we're going to get to early on in the season. Shout out to you guys for showing love. The number one thing that I thought probably was the biggest takeaway, because the Kyler thing, I feel like this was just them retelling us what we had already heard, right? Like, I didn't listen to the Kyler news, at least for me, and go, oh, this is new. We've never heard them say this about Kyler. We have. Like Kyler Gordon, we heard them talk about him this way before the season, or before minicamp, before OTAs. They said he's got to build back trust. So I'm not as surprised, or I didn't think that was big news today. I thought that was rehashing some of the news that we had heard. but it did nail home a point that I was making in yesterday's video. But for me today, the news of the day was around Darnell Wright and that extension getting done. Now, whether you feel that Ryan Poles' comments weren't a guarantee that he is going to get this done, he talked about how there is a window to get it done before we're playing games, but he doesn't want this to be something that is lingering and a distraction for Darnell Wright. That's, I asked him pretty much, I asked him flat out, is this a contract that you want to get done sooner than later? And he's like, there's a window there. We can get it done, but we also got to start playing games. And once we start playing games, you don't want that kind of thing to be a distraction. But he's a player that we want here. A lot of people took that as, he also threw in there, right? And I think this is the quote that threw a lot of people off. It takes two sides to get this thing done. And a lot of people took that as, well, does that mean that Darnell Wright's side is asking for more money? Or does that mean that Ryan Poles is not playing ball in the right manner? What does that mean at the end of the day? Here's the way that I took this, because he finished it out by saying this: I want Darnell here. He's a player that we want here. So if that is the case, then I look at this and those comments as, we're trying to get things done, but we also got to be smart about looking at the market. And when you're looking at the market, you don't want to wait for him to have another all-pro season. Right? You've already seen him last season play through injuries and play at an all-pro level. If you want to get a contract done with Darnell Wright, I think the conversation that plays into this is also, right, are you trying to get somebody in here if Adayo Adangbo, who is motivated and who is on pace to be back out on the field pretty much right away, so he's good to go. Whether it is Adayo Adangbo or it's Austin Booker, you want to see what the defensive line room is going to look like. You might look at that and go, we got to make a move. I'd love to pay Darnell now, but we got to make a move or we're going to be out here floundering on that defensive line. Since that may be the case, you may take a little bit more time to get a contract done. But I think if you don't go out and you add defensive line depth to this team in the preseason, Darnell's a move you probably want to get done sooner than later. And so for me, when I heard Ryan Poles' comments, it was more so about, right, can we find the right number while looking at the market, and where do we think that Darnell slots into that? Do we want to make Darnell the highest paid player at the tackle position? Probably not. You probably want to be somewhere lower. But if you wait, if you sit there and you take your time and you let this play out into the season and he's having another all-pro season, guess what? All you can say is the price is going up. And I would think the Bears don't want to be in that situation either with Caleb Williams. You want to pay him as soon as possible as well. And so in my mind, when you're looking at what Darnell Wright's when Darnell Wright's contract is going to get done, I would say probably before we get to week 1 of this season, depending on what is available to you. If Vita Vea is actually available, although it seems like he wants to go out west, or if there is something on the defensive line that you feel like you need to go out there and add to this team. That's the only way that I think that this wouldn't get done. But outside of that, I think that it's pretty obvious that Ryan Poles, he said it over and over again, he wants Darnell Wright on this team. He thinks that he is a cornerstone piece of this team, and if you got to pay more for him, here's the one thing that we also know about Ryan, right? Remember, he could have paid Jalen Johnson early. He could have paid Jalen Johnson early, but he said, go out there and prove to me that you are the all-pro player that we believe you to be. And he did. And he got to be an all-pro, and he ends up, being, one of the best corners in football. And he was willing to pay that price to be sure on it. I wonder, even with, off of all the issues that Kyler is having right now, if that is going to be the case with Kyler. But that Darnell Wright is somebody who fits into Ben Johnson's system and fits into Ben Johnson's system well, and has that trust of a guy like Dan Richard right now, who went from, he started off last year going, we don't know, we'll see. I don't like his effort and his energy. And I remember asking Tom Waddle, like, is that bad? And he's like, it's the only two things you can control on a football field is effort and energy. And focus, I think, was the other thing he said, effort and focus. The only two things you control on a football field is effort and focus. He went from that to Dan Richard talking about him, I would say glowingly for Dan Richard, right? Like he's still, talking about him in the sense of, yeah, he's doing his job and that's good to have happen. He's not out there going, this is the greatest right tackle I've ever coached in my life. But you do kind of feel like, okay, he's gotten into those good graces. So that's a player you want to have on this team moving forward. At the end of the day, I think that a Darnell Wright contract is something that is going to get done. It's something that we are going to see get done here sooner than later. And Bears fans will be excited to see that happen because Darnell Wright has proven to be an absolute dog on that right side of the line. And hopefully that is something that we can see continue as time goes on. Outside of that, though, man, what do we got? What do we have? 4:14. I got about 15 minutes, man. Send your questions in. Send in any comments that you guys have on anything that you heard today from the pressure. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love as you guys do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, man. Make sure that you are hitting that like button. It helps share the content out even further, man. What else do we got here? Coach Jay Spence says, been watching Luther play since he was in Little League. He's been special at every level he played at. Touchdown, Luther. Yeah, listen, Luther Burden is there are a lot of teams, including a team up north, that are going to heavily regret passing on Luther Burden. He's that level of talent. There's just no other way to say it, right? I think I've said it. I've changed it a little bit because I was starting off saying Luther Burden could juke you out of a phone booth. I don't know if there are still phone booths, so I don't know if that reference still plays. But Luther Burden could 110% juke you out of a closet. Like he could. That might be a pause. That might be crazy. That was wild. We're going to move past that. He's very shifty in tight spaces. I don't like that one either. Either way, he Caleb Williams just talked about him, said he's somebody who always can make the first man miss and always gives you a chance down the field. That's the kind of receiver that you love, right? That's the kind of receiver that you feel great playing for and playing with. And I think that's the kind of, receiver that you have as potentially your second best receiver on the team, depending on what Rome Odunze comes out and proves. Depending on what Rome Odunze is going to make you, is going to force Luther into being. Because if Rome comes out and he proves, yeah, he's the number one, he's a top 10 pick, and he's balling out of his mind, that relationship with Caleb and Rome was on fire last year early in the season. The problem was when the injury came, I think that you got a different version of Rome that was never 100%. And that's you could say that about a lot of players, but that opened up the field for guys like Colston Loveland and for guys like Luther Burden to go show you what they have. And the reality of the situation is, because you have to pay money, and a lot of money, we just talked about a Darnell Wright contract. We're talking about a Caleb Williams contract. We're talking about potentially going out and adding guys. So yes, you are sending money off of your books, but because you're going to have to add money back to the books, you're kind of in this position where if it ain't great, you might not hit that field. We might look to go a different direction. T. Griff said, yeah, you said that a few days ago and we let it slide. I'm just trying to think of a good, juke you out of a phone booth was what everybody always said, but I don't know if these young kids out here even know what a phone booth is, dog. Spencer Burton said, can we get help on our D-line? I'll be honest with you, bro. I think the D-line right now is going to be what it is going to be. Because of even, I don't know if you guys saw it today, right? Jalen Carter ends up getting paid. Vita Vea's got to be looking at that contract and going, well, I got to live somewhere in that realm. I don't think the Bears are going to get Vita Vea. Plus, they talked about him potentially wanting to go out west. I'd love to get a player like that. I would trade the capital that it cost, which I believe they were saying was a second and a fifth. I would trade the capital that it cost to go get him. But as far as D-line help goes, right, you're not going out there to get some of the best of the best. And so now the question becomes, would you like to go out and get a guy who essentially is what Yannick Ngakoue was, right? A pure pass rusher that is still on the market, and more than likely is still on the market for a reason. The guys that are left out here, they're not out here because teams don't want them. They're out here because you're not looking to go out there and pay that kind of price right now. Who's still available here? Let me see here. Edge defenders. This is showing there it is, available. Here we go. Names you're talking about. Hassan Reddick, who I think is still a very talented player who is still available, but maybe there's something that gets done there. Leonard Floyd, it seems like he's still on the market here. Could that be somebody that you bring back? Although, are you kind of living in that same world of what you had before with Leonard Floyd, where you need that other guy? I think we've seen that on a pretty consistent basis. Von Miller is still out there. Is he going to want to come to Chicago? Who else is still available? Kyle Van Noy is out there, but he's 35 at this point. Jadeveon Clowney is out there as a name, but 33 at this point, right? It's like you're not going to the cream of the crop. You're going to the names of guys who are pass rush specialists. And the reality of that is you kind of already have that player on your team. You need to make the best of things with him. And that's Austin Booker. Austin Booker right now, coming into this season, is a pass rush specialist. Can he prove to us that maybe he can do more on the field? I would love to see it. But even what I wanted him to be drafted as was never the 3-down guy. If you go back and look at my Austin Booker draft video, it was, look at this kid. He's going to be able to get downhill, and he's going to be able to be a pass rush specialist. And you hope that you can add the rest of it to the game. But your pass rush specialist can come away with, 10, 12 sacks in a season, what we've seen Leonard Floyd do, what we've seen Hassan Reddick do. And I just feel like I don't need to go out and get an older version of that guy. I've got that guy. I would rather see the Bears develop that guy than go out and get an older version of that. Do you think that Vandenberg and the motivated machine are going to switch between defensive tackle and edge in situations? Possibly. Listen, I think we're going to get to a point with Dayo Adangbo where I think we're going to get to a point where we just go, you're playing inside. Because what is he good at? He's good on the run. He's really good in rundowns, and he's really good on the interior at stopping the run and creating some pressure on the interior. But he is not an elite pass rusher. Unfortunately, he is paid like one, but he's not an elite pass rusher. So I think that you're going to get to a point where you kind of see Dayo out there mostly on rundowns. But on the interior, you're going to see him out there probably a heck of a lot more, especially swapping in with Javon Dexter and Grady Jarrett, where you feel more comfortable with him inside than outside. I think you're going to see a lot less of him in rotation, and eventually you'll see him more on the interior. What else do we got? Puck342 said we do not need Leonard Floyd 2.0. Douglas Key said you want pass rush help, go get Mario Ojamo or Kobe Turner, and that may not happen till the offseason. So yeah, look, the Bears have kind of made their bet on the team. Do I like it? No. When Ryan Poles said we feel like our DBs are good enough to where the quarterback can hold the ball a little bit longer, I think that's going to be a quote that comes back to bite him in the backside. I think that that's going to be a quote that a lot of people are going to look at when we get into the season and go, yeah, but even so, that's still not a good way for you to go out there and dominate. That's not a good way for your defense to be elite time after time. It's just not. And so I think you're kind of just living with the pass rush help that you have until next season when some of the money comes off of the books. And even then, you might be talking about it more in the draft than anywhere else. Baki Rand said, question for Pat and the chat, where did the motivated Dayo nickname come from? I think it came from Ryan Poles, didn't it? Didn't Ryan Poles say that Dayo was more motivated than ever before? And everybody took a motivated Dayo Adangbo and turn that into his nickname? Because literally when I think of motivated Dayo, I see a hamster running fast on a wheel and going nowhere. The one thing that you can't say about Dayo, or you can't take away from Dayo, is Dayo works hard. He's giving 110%. He's always going a million miles an hour. So when they said motivated, right, I kind of looked at it and I was like, well, realistically, he's always been motivated. But you do look at it as you have to look at it in the sense that while Dio might be motivated, you might just not be talented enough. Because I know Dio is giving everything he's got on every play. There is no question that he is working hard for this team. Spencer Burton said run, stop, and pass rush in one player would be nice. It would be. It would be. Unfortunately, we are not going to have that yet again. BLP says Hope Poles does not mess this up. He makes the good players wait and rushes players who are injury prone. Yeah, I mean, I think the injuries, the soft tissue stuff has really just been over the last couple of years, right? Like the injuries that Kyler was dealing with mostly in his career were like broken bones. And broken bones I'm not as bothered by. Like broken bones heal. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know if I would say that when he signed Kyler, I viewed Kyler as an injury prone player. Because wasn't it broken hand? And then he came out of college. Didn't he have a broken leg or something coming out of college? Like those are things that I think I can deal with. But when you start getting into soft tissue injuries and you start getting into them this often, that's where you start to have some concerns. By the way, over 100 in the chat. Over 200 in the chat. 200. Appreciate y'all for tuning in to Show Love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. I'm gonna be live for about 5 more minutes, man. So appreciate y'all for showing love. Baki said, and I'm not trying to clown Dio because he's not P. Will to me, but I'm like, really? Listen, like the bottom line with Dio Adang, and with this defensive line as a whole is I don't think that there's anybody on the line that's not working hard. I don't think that there's anybody on the line that's not trying to be their best. I think you at a certain point, you're not better than the guy on the other side of you. And that means that your game plan has to be better. And it takes talent to execute that game plan. You could have best game plan in the world. If you got the players getting run off and destroyed off of the line, it's not going to matter as much, right? So, with the defensive line, to me, and their philosophy that your DBs are going to just be phenomenal DBs and it's going to give you so much more time. Well, are they? Because I don't know if we can say that. Where the DBs are at right now, can we confidently say that we are 100% certain that we're going to have the best DB unit in football? Because that's what you need to make it okay to not have a pass rush. Jalen Johnson's coming off an injury. We hope that he is healthy and back into full form. Tyreek Stevenson has massive questions from just about everybody in Chicago, and I would say the coaching staff as well. Kyler Gordon is dead for all intents and purposes heading into this season. Like, do you think that Malik Muhammad is going to come out and be a world beater day one? Like, there's going to be some rookie growing pains there, right? You've already put Elijah Hicks on the PUP list, although it seems like that's going to be a short time, but that is still a setback starting things off right now. Even your linebacking crew, right? TJ Edwards starting off banged up. Like, there's a lot of, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk going on with this defense. Now, I love what somebody said here. They said, Noah P. said, I believe in Al Harris. That is 100% true. And I believe in this coaching staff as a whole. When Ben Johnson comes out on day one and he's telling you all the reasons that he's excited and he's fired up and he's, like that to me gets me excited about what this team is going to look like as we get into the regular season. That to me gets me excited about what this team is going to look like and how they're going to prepare week in and week out as they go into camp. I'm not concerned that the team is going to struggle, but I am concerned that there are going to be certain aspects that make winning games a heck of a lot harder than maybe they should be. Flex King said, I think Malik Muhammad is going to be good once he learns the defense. I agree with you. I think Malik is going to be a problem heading into this season. Reem Dog said, let's talk about how Swift only had one rush over 25 yards last season. Kyle had multiple 25-plus yard runs. Swift is really washed. Y'all just don't want to admit it. If you watched DeAndre Swift last season and your takeaway from him was washed, learn ball. I don't know what to tell you. Like, yeah, he only had one 25-plus yard run. That doesn't mean he didn't have multiple big plays. That doesn't mean he didn't bail out Caleb on multiple underneath throws, right? That doesn't mean that he didn't run the hardest that we've seen him run. And y'all know how I feel about running backs on this channel. I'm not the one that's going to sit here and be like, you should pay people and keep it there. I think that Kyle Monangai does take over at a certain point. But nothing about DeAndre Swift last year was washed. If you had said that 2 years ago, I'd be right there with you. But nothing about DeAndre Swift last year said washed. Shy Kid said, go watch him versus Commanders. He is not washed. Yeah, that was a take. Hey, that's the one, ladies and gentlemen. Redeem Dog, shout out to you, brother, because you're the reason we know we're back. You're the reason we know we're back. There we go. Hey, I'm going to get up out of here on that one. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. When we just saying anything in the comments, we're back. Hey, man, I appreciate y'all for tuning in to the show with love as always. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Like I said before, man, if you guys have not done so, make sure that you are subscribed to Pat the Designer TV. We are going to be live over there for every NFL game on days that I don't have duties. Also, make sure that you follow us on everything. And if you are not in the Discord, you are 100% missing out. Make sure to join the Breeze Discord. The link is in the YouTube post, and I will repost it today as well. Bet on one love. Drop a bet down in the chat if you have not done so. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.